Hello, you're watching 6 News on this Sunday evening. I'm Leonardo, Puglisi. The top stories we're following tonight. Budget 2022 2.0. Treasurer Jim Chalmers prepares to make his speech in less than 48 hours amid calls for the federal government to raise the job seeker rate and axe the stage 3 tax cuts. Labor to consider any proposal put before them amid an upcoming censure motion against Green Senator Lydia Thorpe being backed by the Coalition and One Nation, with calls for Adam Bandt to dump the controversial senator from the party altogether. Darren Hinch's Justice Party aims to hold on to their 2 seats in the Victorian Parliament and potentially elect Darren Hinch himself as another Justice Party holds their campaign launch in Melbourne. And nominations set to close in what is the second British Conservative Party leadership race this year as the United Kingdom gets ready for its 3rd Prime Minister in as many months. Good evening. Labor is preparing to hand down their first federal budget since 2013 and the second Australia's seen this year. Treasurer Jim Chalmers has already confirmed that responding to natural disasters will be central features of the budget, but even after the government said it wouldn't be included, calls to raise the job seeker rate continue. Calls remain tonight as well for the stage 3 tax cuts to be axed, despite them not coming into effect until July 2024. Portling and Holmes has the details.
Labor's last federal budget was delivered almost a decade ago. Since then, it was all from the Coalition, with the most recent being earlier this year. Now a Labor MP is back as Treasurer, with Jim Chalmers set to hand down his first ever budget in less than 48 hours.
Responding to natural disasters and building resilience in our economy will be absolutely central features.
On the agenda will be responding to natural disasters, but something the government has repeatedly said won't be included is an increase to job seeker.
We don't have a plan to increase the job seeker allowance in our first budget, but what you would do, and I've said this on the number of occasions consistently that I've been asked, every time governments do a budget, they should look at what is responsible and do what they can to help those in need. What we have said is that we will consider what we can do in each and every budget. That's what Labor governments do.
That's despite growing calls from the Greens, David Pocock, and many in the public to raise the rate. Multiple old tweets from Labor MPs calling for a job seeker increase continue to spread online, with the party repeatedly saying in 2020 people shouldn't be left in poverty. The other big item is something that doesn't come into effect until July 2024. That is stage 3 tax cuts. It's now been revealed that the cost has gone up by around $11 billion from the original forecasts. Chalmers will make his budget speech in Canberra on Tuesday night. Lincoln Holmes, 6 News.
And 6 News will have live coverage of Budget 2022 2.0 from 7:25pm Eastern Daylight Time on Tuesday, bringing you the Treasurer's full speech and straight after detailed analysis on what it means for you. A censure motion will be moved against Green Senator Lydia Thorpe in Parliament after revelations she dated ex-bikie boss Dean Martin while on a law enforcement committee. The Coalition and One Nation are both backing the motion, while Labor says they'll consider any proposals put forward to them. Some have called for Greens leader Adam Bandt to dump Thorpe from the party, even after she already lost her position as Deputy Senate Leader. If Thorpe quits the Senate altogether, it's assumed that someone else is on the Greens Senate ticket in Victoria this year would take her place, but if she remains in the Senate, she could form a party, join an already existing one, or sit as an independent. One of New South Wales' most senior MPs has overnight announced he will not be contesting the 2023 state election. Liberal MP and Transport Minister David Elliott has been in Parliament since 2011 but has now become the latest government minister to confirm he would not be recontesting his seat in March. It follows reports from News Corp that Elliott ruled out contesting the new seat of Kellyville, saying he would not knife a mate, with the redistribution seeing Castle Hill encompassing a large part of Elliott's seat of Balcombe Hills. He's the 8th Liberal MP to announce their retirement so far. The The jury in the Bruce Lehrmann trial will return tomorrow after being unable to reach a verdict in the first few days of deliberations. Lehrmann is accused of raping Liberal staffer and former colleague Brittany Higgins in 2019, pleading not guilty. The ABC reports lawyers for Mr Lehrmann have suggested Ms Higgins did not know what happened on the night or may have made up the assault to save her job. The Honourable Justice Party has held their campaign launch in Melbourne as the party aims to hold on to its one upper house seat and potentially gain some others. Andy Medic is currently serving MLC for the Western Metro Victoria region, I should state. He should be seeking re-election, with the party set to run in all electorates in both houses. Labor and the Greens are the only other parties planning to do so. The AJP picked up 1.82% of the lower house vote at the 2018 election. Next week on 6 News, we will be speaking to Andy Medic himself as part of our commitment to interview at least one person from every single party running in the Victorian election. Another Justice Party is aiming to hold on to their parliamentary representation. They have Darren Hinch's Justice Party having 2 upper house seats after 3 members were elected back in 2018. Stuart Grimley is the party's state leader. I spoke to him earlier from the newsroom. I want to go back to 2018 now, because much of the media at the time, when it was talking about election issues, was talking about crime in Victoria, quote-unquote African gangs. Whether that was overblown or not, that's a different matter. But I imagine, a lot of that crime talk helped you, a party with justice in your name there. You did win 3 seats after all. Obviously, you have 2 seats now, but that's something else. But now in 2022, I think COVID is obviously a huge issue. Corruption would be another one, and there's also plenty of other issues, but those seem to be the main 2. Are you worried that the change or the shift in the major election issues is going to affect you now that we don't have crime at the forefront of the conversation? And yeah, how do you think you'll actually go this election, both you personally and your party?
Yeah, the pandemic will definitely play a massive part in this election, which will absolutely draw away, I suppose, some of the people who were voting for us in the first instance on those crime-related issues. They will more likely migrate more towards parties such as United Australia Party or the Liberal Democrats, which were quite, forward in the pandemic, opposing the pandemic legislation. Mind you, we also oppose the pandemic legislation, but for sort of different reasons. So I would hope that the voters would recognise that and remember that come voting time. But you are right. Yes, it is quite fickle, the justice system. Sometimes you can have those roller coaster moments where crime is quite significant in the community, and other times where it's seemingly going okay. But what we found over the journey is that crime's everywhere. You'll be battling to find somebody who is not affected by a crime at some stage in their life, or knows of someone, in particular serious crimes. And what we're hearing also, lots of people come to our office just with concerns, complaints about how they're being treated through the justice system, and also the outcomes of their sentence. So there are many, many people out there that it still does affect.
Now, what if you are elected, or re-elected, I should state, but we also see, because you are the Justice Party, but you're officially Darren Hinch's Justice Party, what if we also see Darren Hinch elected there? Do you want to stay on as your party leader? Because, with all due respect to you, Darren Hinch is obviously a pretty well-known figure, and I think some would imagine if it was you and him in Parliament together, same party, Hinch would become the leader of the Hinch Justice Party.
And I would gladly step aside for that to happen. I'll be more than happy for Darren to take the reins and step up as that state leader. Absolutely. And I really do hope that he does get in. He's, he calls a spade, and we need more people like that within Parliament.
I think he's running in my upper house electorate, so I wonder if I'll see his image around on ballot papers ballot, the protest, all that, corn flutes, all that. It'll be interesting. Now, of course, I think the other thing is when we turn to the upper house, it is how you get into the upper house, and I think we both know it is the group voting ticket system here. There's no doubt it helped your party in 2018. So, for the record, do you actually support GVT, keeping GVT in place?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Without a group voting ticket, you wouldn't have that diversity, like I said, in the upper house. You would have probably a Labor majority with a Liberal and Greens in the opposition, Liberal Nationals and the Greens as the other parties. The importance, like I said at the start of the broadcast, of having the diversity in the upper house is that it offers that really definitive house of review, which is incredibly important because, like I said, otherwise you can just have legislation that gets rammed through without any amendments, without any proposed amendments. So as minor parties and as opposition also, we can propose amendments to legislation. And when we do have the numbers, which has happened quite a few times in this term of parliament, you can change the legislation that has been proposed by the government. If you didn't have that diversity, you would not be able to have those amendments. Bearing in mind, one of those key amendments was to have that independent committee, the Pandemic Oversight Committee, when the pandemic bill did pass. And that was as a result of minor parties speaking with the government about their concerns about the pandemic bill.
There were preference deals orchestrated by Glenn Drury that seemed to benefit your party. Will you be working with him again this year?
We talk with everybody. We talk with Glenn, we're talking with the United Australia Party, we're talking with the Liberal Democrats, talking with Labor, talking with Liberal, talking with Greens. We talk with everybody who's prepared to listen to us, and that's how we sort of work out where we think our preferences are going to lie come election time. And it's the same for those parties as well. If you're not talking to everybody, then you really, you're not entirely in the game.
Gotcha. And just finally, of course, as important as the upper house is, the lower house is where we're going to see government formed, the government decided. What do you predict is going to happen? 4 more years of an Andrews government, coalition, potentially a minority? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, absolutely. 4 more years of a Andrews Labor government. I think that's a given. I predict a swing probably about 4%, 3 to 4% away from the Labor government. Due to various reasons, the fact that they have been in power for a number of terms now, and the pandemic legislation, they will still retain power, but it will be at a much less majority than what it has been this time around.
I'm making the same prediction there. So look, it is going to be a really interesting election. Stuart Grimley, thanks very much for your time, and best of luck.
No worries. Thank you, mate. Thanks.
Well, are you in Victoria and have you seen any of these? If you haven't, you'll probably be getting them under your door in the mailbox in the next few days, and we would actually love to see them. If you've seen these or core flutes, especially minor parties and independents, take a pic or a video, send it to SIXNewsAU on social media or email contact@sixnewsau.com. We are tracking the election promises being made here at Six News and seeing what the minor parties who could hold the balance of power are actually standing for. So don't forget to send them through. Six News will be live as Victoria decides on election night, Saturday, November 26th from 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Well, nominations are set to close in the second British Conservative Party leadership race this year following the resignation of Liz Truss. The UK is now preparing for their second Prime Minister in as many months, third in fact, the second under King Charles III's reign. Port Austin Pollock has the details.
It's an honour to be elected as leader of the Conservative and Unionist Party.
Then 45 days later,
And we set out a vision for a low-tax, high-growth economy that would take advantage of the freedoms of Brexit. I recognise, though, given the situation, I cannot deliver the mandate on which I was elected by the Conservative Party.
Liz Truss, officially the shortest serving Prime Minister in UK history, but it was far from short and sweet. The last Prime Minister to be sworn in by the late Queen. Her promised tax cuts sent the UK pound crashing, along with her approval rating. Interest rates rose, chancellors resigned. Failed leadership contender Rishi Sunak and former Prime Minister Boris Johnson are among those who are reportedly looking to take the job. Liz Truss has, however, said she will remain until a successor is chosen, following a leadership election to be held within the next week. It comes after 48 hours earlier, Truss remained adamant she was not going to resign. Then at 1:30 p.m. Tuesday local time, what some call the inevitable happened. This now means that the UK will soon know its fifth Prime Minister in just 6 years, and the opposition is not happy.
The public are paying with higher prices, with higher mortgages. So we can't have a revolving door of chaos.
And as it turns out, the lettuce did outlast the Prime Minister. Austin Pollock, 6 News.
Fallout continues and questions remain after former Chinese President Hu Jintao was let out of the closing ceremony of the Chinese Communist Party's 20th National Congress. The former president, who is now 79, appeared reluctant to leave the front row of the audience where he was sitting next to current President Xi Jinping. Xi and Premier Li exchanged brief words with him, with the former president let out by a steward who held his arm. His departure has not been fully explained, although state media said he was feeling unwell. Former US President Donald Trump could be facing criminal charges if he doesn't comply with the subpoena from the congressional panel investigating last year's Capitol riot. The document addressed Mr. Trump, saying in part that you knew this activity was illegal and unconstitutional. US correspondent Jackson Gosnell has the latest developments.
Leo, former President Trump has been asked to testify by the January 6th committee under oath, giving his account of that day and days leading up to the event where the Capitol was under assault. But the big question here in the U.S. is, will he do it? The former president has issued a response, but did not indicate whether or not he plans to testify. In his response, he talked about how the election was phony in his opinion, although it is worth noting that a lot of those claims are unsubstantiated according to multiple sources. Now, the former president does not indicate whether or not he plans to testify in that response letter, but it is important to note that earlier reports suggest that he is willing to do so, but only if he can do it live. Therefore, his tapes would not be altered or edited in a way that the former president dislikes. But a lot of people say, even though it is predicted that he may agree if it's live, people say it probably won't happen anyway because he's a former president, and they're wondering if Congress can even make a former president testify at all, if they legally can do so. He is expected to do this by November the 14th, but again, we don't know if it will happen. Now, Steve Bannon, that was a longtime Trump ally. He defied an order to do just the same by this committee, and he's been sentenced to 4 months in prison. He is out awaiting a hearing of an appeal for that sentencing. So again, the former president has reportedly indicated to his aides that he would comply and do this, but only if it could be live. But a lot of people don't think it'll happen either way, just because of who he is, being the former president, and the legal battles that are expected to play out regarding whether or not they can require a former president to even do this. I'll keep you updated on all the latest from here in the U.S. I'm Jackson Gosnell. Back to you.
Back home, and Glenn Maxwell has admitted that Australia's performance in the opening T20 World Cup match last night was basically not how to play a T20. The Aussies were thrashed by 89 runs at the SCG, with New Zealand making 3 for 200 in their 220 overs before Australia headed out to bat. Only Maxwell and Pat Cummins surpassed 200, with Australia all out for 111 after just 17 overs. Maxwell told the ABC after the match, "They played brilliantly and said that we weren't able to get partnerships. It is the biggest T20 win from the Kiwis against Australia." Now, don't forget, you can see more news and analysis pieces on our website right now. SIXNewsAU.com. A new edition of Commonwealth Knowledge is out right now, taking a look at national security versus natural justice. Again, that is available on SIXNewsAU.com. And now here's Ivan Melly in Perth. We'll look at what's making news right now on WAMN News.
Thanks, Leo. Tonight on an extended edition of WAMN News, the wrong man, shocking claims of a doctor at a major Perth hospital allegedly calling the wrong person over a patient's death. A WAMN News exclusive.
Also, in another exclusive, viewers back calls for fuel vouchers from Premier Mark McGowan, following the latest WAMN News poll on cost of living relief.
A special event to highlight the importance of organ donation, and later Dr. Andrew Miller's comment.
Join us tonight on the WAMN News Facebook page and YouTube channel.
Alright, thanks both Ivan and Melly there. Now let's get a check of tomorrow's national weather forecast. Sunny the further north you get, with temperatures in the 30s. Brisbane expecting a partly cloudy top of 30 despite the rain today. Rain in Sydney, however, getting to 19 degrees there. Similar conditions if you're in the nation's capital. A chance of some light rain with a top of 18 in Canberra. That rain does continue in the southeast, 21 in Melbourne, while Hobart has a chance of wet weather with a top of just 13. The showers then continue across the nation's southern coast, 18 in Adelaide, though Alice Springs will get to a sunny top of 34 in Perth. will have a top of 20 degrees. Darwin, though, will have a warm top of 33. Reminder of the top stories we're following on 6 News this hour, and Treasurer Jim Chalmers is preparing to make his budget speech in less than 48 hours amid calls for the federal government to raise the job seeker rate and axe the stage 3 tax cuts, despite them not coming into effect until 2024. And Labor will consider any proposal put before them amid a censure motion upcoming against Green Senator Lydia Thorpe being backed by the Coalition and One Nation, with some calls for Adam Bandt to dump the controversial senator from the party altogether. 6 News will bring you live coverage of Budget 2022 2.0 from 7:25pm Eastern Daylight Time on Tuesday with the Treasurer's full speech, and then after that, detailed analysis on what it means for you. And that is 6 News for this hour. There's more news 24/7 on our website, 6newsau.com, and on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and Lit. Just search 6NewsAU to find us. I'm Leonardo Puglisi. Thanks for your company. Good night.